The new coronavirus is officially a pandemic, steadily spreading around the world. COVID-19 infections have now been confirmed in more than 100 countries and regions. In places like Italy and Iran, infection rates have been rising dramatically every day. But as the pandemic widens, China seems to be getting its own outbreak under control. New infections have dropped significantly, and for days, China has reported 0 new cases outside Hubei province, the epicenter of the outbreak. There have only been a handful of imported cases that officials say were people infected outside the country's borders. So how did China succeed in containing the virus?
China has taken one of the most ancient strategies for infectious disease control and rolled out probably the most ambitious and I would say agile and aggressive disease containment effort in history.
Bruce Aylward led the team of experts from the World Health Organization that visited China to observe its response to the outbreak. He pointed out some key measures China took that gave it an advantage in the virus fight. One is simply China's misfortune of being the place the coronavirus crisis started. That has become an advantage since it now has the most knowledge and experience in dealing with COVID-19. The first infections were reported in December 2019 in Wuhan, the capital of the central province of Hubei. Many of the first patients had visited this seafood and live animal market, which is believed to be where the virus started spreading. Local authorities have been criticized by Chinese citizens and the central government for not acting quickly enough, and even punishing doctors who first tried to sound the alarm. But once reports of the virus and its spread made headlines, Chinese President Xi Jinping ordered resolute efforts to contain the virus. The government immediately took drastic measures. On January 23rd, Wuhan, a city of more than 11 million people, went into complete lockdown. All public transportation stopped. Only cars with special permits were allowed on the streets. People have been blocked from entering or leaving the city by air, rail, or road. Those in the city have been ordered to stay at home. Limiting human interaction has reduced the risk of transmitting the virus, which spreads through moisture droplets, most often expelled when people cough or sneeze. Eventually, 15 other cities in Hubei imposed similar measures, locking down and restricting the movements of more than 60 million people. Fighting the virus became a national priority. China reallocated a huge chunk of its healthcare system to respond to the coronavirus outbreak. More than 20,000 medical workers from across the country flew into Wuhan and other parts of Hubei province to help treat patients. The government built new facilities specifically for patients with COVID-19. The move addressed the shortage of beds in existing hospitals and kept coronavirus patients isolated. China also took steps to ensure that patients with other illnesses would still get the medicine they needed while under lockdown. Authorities increased prescriptions to 3 months instead of the usual 1-month course. They also allowed prescriptions to be processed online and through the WeChat app, rather than in person. Healthcare providers also set up a system to deliver medication to people. China also made testing and treatment of COVID-19 free of charge. Though many hospitals were flooded with people reporting symptoms such as fever and difficulty breathing, the government covered the cost of testing, even if the results were negative. In the United States, there have been reports of people being tested for the virus, but when they got negative results, they ended up with bills for thousands of dollars.
The single biggest lesson is speed. Speed is everything.
All of China's efforts to contain the coronavirus happened at rapid speed. From the lockdown in Wuhan going into effect just hours after it was announced, to the temporary hospitals for COVID-19 patients being built from the ground up in a matter of days. It also acted quickly to alert the public about symptoms of an infection, so people knew when they should see a doctor. China set up a network of fever hospitals where people could go to be tested, and was quick to isolate confirmed cases and track their close contacts to find the origins of infection clusters. So, as some Western countries now debate their next steps in the pandemic,
Today I am officially declaring a national emergency.
global health experts say China's example shows us why time is of the essence.
Because every day we stop to think about this disease and make decisions, should we do it or we not, this virus will take advantage and almost double the number of cases. You have to move fast.
There's no doubt China's measures have taken a toll on its economy and its people. Factories have been shut for weeks. Restaurants have been closed. Shopping malls are practically empty. And it will still be some time before it's business as usual. But the latest data indicates that China is close to containing its coronavirus outbreak. Chinese state media calls Wuhan a decisive place in the country's battle against COVID-19. However, Aylward says when the lockdown is eventually lifted and life starts to return to normal, China will still need to tread with caution.
The Chinese forced the tail of this outbreak down. It could come back up again as people start to move again. The shops start to open, the restaurants open, schools open. It's a risk, and that risk is being managed very carefully.